right, kids, I just want to quickly go through the expectations for today's submitted movie clips assignment, which is step 3. So I'm going to walk you through it as quickly as I can. Okay, so I'm going to open it up and it gives me directions. And the first one says, click here to access the Google document. So I'm going to go ahead and click there. Now, you're going to be prompted to make a copy, but my first piece of advice is don't do it inside Schoology. Click in the lower right-hand corner and then do open in Safari, because it gets you straight to being able to, edit it a little bit more easily. So you make a copy, and when it opens up, I'm going to walk you through the directions and the example. So the first row is done as an example for you. So the directions indicate, here we go, it says please use your resources. In this case, your notes on science fiction and dystopian literature, and your copy of The Pedestrian by Ray Bradbury to complete the graphic organizer and to answer the question at the end. So you'll start by watching the film clip that is linked on the left-hand side, left-hand column. Right, if you notice, if you click on that, it should take you to the YouTube. You'll watch the trailer, and then you're going to, oops, sorry, I did not mean to do that. Then you are going to answer this first question up here. What characteristics of dystopian literature is or are most noticeable in the clip? So, examples of dystopian, characteristics of dystopian societies, of dystopian settings, of dystopian protagonists, right? They're all fair game. So when I did it, I decided to say that citizens are dehumanized. Seemed like the most obvious and most notable characteristic to choose for the Hunger Games. But what I want to point out is I didn't simply copy down the characteristic from the notes. I then extended that thought to include some more specific details about why the Hunger Games specifically demonstrates that citizens are being dehumanized, and that's where this comes in. By being forced to fight to the death like animals, and they're forced to sacrifice their values and beliefs, right? Like those things that make them individual human beings in order to follow the rules of their government. And then the next question, it's easy, right? What do you think? Would life be worse in the world of The Pedestrian, or would life be worse in the world of the Hunger Games? And I, of course, decided that the Hunger Games would be worse. So now I want to explain myself, right? So I want to again kind of keep a focus on the specifics of the dystopias, and not just go with generalizations that could apply to any and all dystopias. So I write, life would be worse in the Hunger Games. Whereas people's lives are dull and there's the threat of being institutionalized for nonconformity in The Pedestrian, young people's very lives are at stake in the Hunger Games. And the games exist simply to prevent citizens from rebelling against their oppressive government, right? So I have some specific, being institutionalized for nonconformity and lives are dull, right? That applies specifically to The Pedestrian, right? So, lives are dull and institutionalized for nonconformity, right? I couldn't necessarily apply that to everything. It's specific to The Pedestrian. And when you say young people's very lives are at stake in the Hunger Games, and the games exist to prevent citizens from rebelling against their government, that applies specifically to the Hunger Games. So you do the rest on your own, using your own ideas. So you'll watch the Hunger Games and you'll pick a characteristic from the Hunger Games, and you will not copy my answer. You'll have your own thoughts. And then at the very end, you will answer this question. You'll answer this question at the very end. If you had to choose one of these worlds, the Hunger Games, the Matrix, or The Pedestrian, in which to live, which would you choose? And you'll explain using evidence from the source, the story or the movie. And the evidence should reference the specifics of the movie and the story, but it doesn't have to be a direct quotation in this case because that would be super hard. I'm not expecting you to memorize the dialogue of any movies. So I hope that that helps you. Now I want to quickly take you to how to see. So this is what it looks like, I think, when you open up an assignment. But if you click in the little arrow on the upper right-hand side, it'll open up kind of more what it looks like on the computer, and you'll get to see the rubric, right? So this is important. This is a 3-point assignment. The expectations are that your responses should be thoughtful, should reflect an understanding of the characteristics of dystopias. So that'll be, that your responses come from our notes, and that your responses are complete, and that the assignment is complete. And it's a 3-2-1, meeting expectations, working toward expectations, needs improvement, or did not attempt. Did not attempt is when you submit a blank document, which Ms. Rosine does not like at all. Okay, thanks. I hope that was helpful.